Okay, I'll start out by recapping just for people that weren't here at my first briefing. My understanding is at about 11:30 this morning, there was a teacher that barricaded himself inside of his classroom here at the school. I can give you that teacher's identity right now. His name is Randall Davidson. His full name is Jesse Randall Davidson. He's 53. He's been a teacher here at Dalton High School since 2004. I think a lot of people in town will also know him as the play-by-play voice of the Dalton High football team. So Jesse Randall Davidson this morning about 11:30 during the second class of the day, which is actually technically referred to by the school as third period because the way they do block scheduling here is his planning period. And apparently there were some students that were trying to get into his classroom. He wasn't letting anybody in the classroom. He was in there by himself. When the principal, Mr. Bartu, came to the classroom to, I guess, see what the problem was, Mr. Davidson blocked him from entering the room. When the principal put a key in the door to try to unlock the classroom, Mr. Davidson apparently fired a shot from a handgun through an exterior window of the classroom. It did not appear that it was aimed at anybody. It obviously broke out the window, and at that point the school went into lockdown. The authorities were called, and obviously we had a lot of police officers on scene here very quickly, and they immediately made entry into the school. I believe once they had at least two people on scene, they went in as teams and they began moving towards the section of the school. It's the 400 hallway here in the school. The room that Mr. Davidson was in is room 413. As soon as officers had enough people in the hallway, they worked to evacuate the surrounding classrooms just to get the students that were in the immediate area into a more safe location. They moved them into the commons area and down into the gym area where there were some locker rooms that are able to be secured pretty easily. After about 30 or 45 minutes with Mr. Davidson inside the room by himself, he agreed to surrender to authorities, and he was taken into custody without incident. We had a lot of response from the Dalton Police Department, obviously, but also the Whitfield County Sheriff's Office, Georgia State Patrol. A lot of federal entities have offices here in town, so a lot of those agents responded to the scene as well. Like I said earlier, more or less everybody with a badge that was in the area came running when this call went out.
Is there a reason why he fired a shot?
I don't know. I don't have any information about what he may or may not have said in interviews, and I wouldn't want to speculate.
Was he on the phone with his wife right before?
I don't know that, and I actually, in terms of what I can release about what upset him today or anything like that, I actually don't have information to release on that. And I lost my train of thought about what I was about to say. But basically, ever since the scene has been secured with Mr. Davidson in custody, our officers have been working in teams with some of the other agencies that have responded, going door by door through the school to make sure that there weren't people still barricaded inside of classrooms. I think a lot of you are probably aware that when these things happen, there have been a lot of reports of how kids barricade themselves in classrooms for safety, and I know that there's some indication that that had happened in different areas of the school, but we didn't find anybody that was still hiding out there.
Is his wife also a teacher at the school?
I don't know who his wife is. Basically, I know that students in the school were evacuated. They were taken to the Trade Center, and hopefully by now the word's gotten out to parents that that is where they can collect their students. There was one child that was hurt running through the school. My understanding is that she sustained an ankle injury. I don't know if it was a sprain or if it was broken or anything like that, but she was treated on scene by EMS, and she's not here anymore. I don't know if she was taken by bus or if EMS actually took her. So that's basically what I know right now.
What can you tell us about Mr. Davidson? How long has he been a teacher over here? What do we know about him?
I know that he was a teacher here since 2004. I believe before that he was already doing the Dalton High football games. I believe he had a career in radio before he became a teacher here.
The shot that was fired out the window, where does that window face? Were any other students outside potentially in danger?
I don't believe any students were outside. Again, we don't have any indication that was targeting anybody. I don't know whether he was just firing the gun off to let people know to back off or what. We actually sent some officers into the neighborhood across the street, across Manley Street here where that window faces, just to make sure that it did not strike a house without intent and to make sure nobody was injured over there. Unfortunately, nobody was injured.
So he had a gun on him when he came to school today then?
I don't know when the gun made it into the school. I know that he had a class in first period this morning, and there were no indications, I don't believe, that there was any kind of danger or anything unusual that I'm aware of. I don't know if the gun was in the classroom while he was teaching this morning or if he brought it in afterwards. All I know is that he had it with him during his planning period. The principal told me that he had actually walked through the 400 hall before the incident happened and saw Mr. Davidson working at his desk with the door open. And obviously at that point there wasn't any indication of anything going on, so I don't know when that gun actually made it into the school.
Do you know what hours his planning period is?
So apparently during this third period block he doesn't have a class, but I don't know what the time parameters are for that third period.
Did he
Is it
say
first period then
anything?
third period?
So right, so the way that their block scheduling works on Wednesdays, basically they have the odd periods, so first then third and then so on.
Did he say anything specifically to the students or the administrator who came to his door?
So I don't have any information about any statements that he may have made. Basically, it certainly seemed like he didn't have any intention to harm anybody else, though. He made some great efforts, it would seem, to make sure that nobody else got into that classroom and that it was him alone in there.
Is it against school policy to bring a gun inside the school here?
I would have to imagine so, but I can't speak for the school system about what their policies are, but I would be shocked if it was not against their policies.
Did you say what type of handgun it was?
All I know right now is that it was a handgun. I'm not exactly sure what type or what caliber.
So do you have any idea what his charges are going to be yet? I know you mentioned it before.
I still don't, and right now they're still working on interviewing him. He's actually at the Police Services Center, which is our headquarters, and investigators are speaking with him, and they'll make whatever charges they feel are appropriate. Obviously that's going to take some time, but obviously there's any number of things he could be charged with.
So did you all have previous contact with him? We got a tip that he had some type of episode or something a week or 2 weeks ago.
I don't know of anything that I don't know any of his history with law enforcement right now. I haven't had a chance to check our records. I'm certainly not aware of that incident. Also want to make sure, I've been informed by another reporter there was a rumor out there that Mr. Davidson actually shot himself when that shot went off. That is not the case. There were no injuries from that gunfire.
Do you know what subject it's on?
Social studies, I believe.
Will there be any additional security at school or anything like that tomorrow?
I imagine that we will have a heightened presence. There was another incident here at Dalton High School a week ago, which I don't know if I would term it an incident, but there was a note left by a student that indicated a threat against the school. I'm sure you're all aware there have been a lot of copycat type threats ever since the incident in Florida. This incident does not appear to be in any way connected to that note. But the day after that note was found last week, we had a heightened police presence here. I don't know exactly what our plans are for tomorrow, but I would have to imagine that we'll have a lot more officers on scene and also in the area just so students and parents can feel secure.
Do you know how they got all the students from here to the convention center? Were they able to load all of them up on a bus, or what?
There were a lot of buses here, both from the county school system and the company that contracts with the city. The people that were on scene here first probably saw a whole lot of them. They were lined up all around the parking lot, and they were able to get them out here pretty quickly.
What are the current security measures at the school?
So I don't know exactly what the school system has in place. I know that the Dalton Police Department has an SRO or school resource officer assigned to the high school full-time, to Morris Innovative full-time, and one that's assigned to the middle school. And those officers also work to keep the elementary schools secure, so they spend some time on those other campuses as well. But as far as what the school system itself does, I'm not aware of that. I know that the entryway to the front, I know just from coming up here before, is locked and you have to go through the front office to get into the school. But in terms of what's done for the students, I'm not sure.
Do you know how many classrooms are around his?
I don't know what number of classrooms there are, but it's basically at the end of a hallway, so a handful, I would say.
Okay.
Any officers at his home?
I don't have any information about that. I know that he is at the Police Services Center right now, and as far as where other investigations might be taking place, I'm not sure. There's also officers on scene at the Trade Center where the students were taken, just to try to keep that process as smooth as possible and make sure there's no problems over there also.